I'm about to say something really political. Disney is truly in its flop era.
So this is not necessarily a hot take by this creator. Why doesn't Disney do stuff like they did in the Renaissance is actually a pretty common enough take nowadays. But I'm going to, just kind of break it down in one very simple, easy explanation. It's a money issue. Disney does not make a whole lot of money off of, the Disney Renaissance style films. And it's not to say that the films that they release are necessarily bad. It's just financially speaking, they could release other shit like Frozen or like fucking Zootopia or like any other thing besides the Disney Renaissance films. Cause sure, these movies are all great. I like every single one of these films. I've only not seen The Rescuers, but I'm sure if it's the same quality as the rest of these, it's pretty good, right? The problem being that out of all of these films, the only one that's cracked the top 50 for Disney all time is The Lion King, with the next closest being Aladdin at 65th. And sure, these movies saved Disney at the time, right? At the time, they were kind of like Disney's saving grace in terms of movie productions. However, in the modern era, they just don't cut it anymore. The Princess and the Frog was the last film by Disney that could be considered a classic Disney style release, right? It was a musical, it was hand-drawn, it had all the same markers of what came before it, right? And you know why they didn't make a second one? You know why they didn't, make another movie of its same style and caliber? It didn't perform well. It performed worse than G-Force in the same year by about $20 million. And G-Force is literally a movie about CGI fucking guinea pigs. Like, in a spy movie. That's the plot of G-Force. CGI spy guinea pigs versus masterful fucking Princess and the Frog production that has, like, some of the greatest songs from Disney of all time. So why doesn't Disney make the same stuff that they made before? Like, why don't they make that same type of movie? Well, it's because at one point they did, and it didn't do that well. For the record, by the way, here's Hercules and here's Mulan, also two Disney Renaissance films that are outside of the top 100. And so until the, modern Disney productions start performing worse than that, Disney is not really incentivized to make any sort of change. They're incentivized to make shit like Coco and like Frozen and Encanto, because those movies made money for Disney. They made money in the modern era for Disney. Whereas, movies like Princess and the Frog, Mulan, and Hercules, in comparison to what we have today, just straight up didn't. Even adjusted for inflation, they straight up did not make that much money. Not that they weren't good movies, they just weren't good financial successes for Disney. Right? And so they don't have that incentive, at least at the current modern, age, to make that change and make something like classic Disney, right? It's the same principle that, writers get frustrated with when people say, well, why didn't they go back to classic stuff? Like an example being, the classic Rick and Morty adventures, right? Why don't you just go back to that stuff? It's a nebulous concept, and when you had it, you didn't like it as much as what you have now, right? Whether or not you say it does not make it necessarily true to the overall modern audience.